Well, thank you all for coming out. A few nights ago, we were at a debate, the one and only debate, because Kathy Hochul doesn't want to do multiple debates across the state. I think it would be fantastic for us to do a debate right here in Rochester. But unfortunately, 1 month after the start of absentee voting, we have 1 hour debate, and during it, there was a good focus on crime. Spectrum News, NY1, did a good job. We saw Susan Arbetter and Errol Lewis running a fair debate to try to get to as many questions as they possibly could, and they deserve a lot of credit for being professionals in doing so. Crime question after crime question after crime question, and Kathy Hochul's not talking about the most important part of holding criminals accountable for their crimes when they hurt other people. The consequences of being locked up for your action, the debt that is owed to society. When you harm somebody else, you hurt somebody, you stab somebody, you murder somebody else. There are small business owners that are dealing with the realities of being robbed. There are employees having to deal with the realities of being assaulted. Heck, I even had a drive-by gang-related shooting on my front yard 3 weeks ago while my 16-year-old daughters were sitting there at the kitchen table focused on doing their homework on a quiet Sunday afternoon. One bullet landed about 30 feet away. There were 2 people shot laying down on the ground 10 feet away from them. And Kathy Hochul just wasn't talking about that part of the criminal justice system where you prosecute criminals for harming other people. I pointed it out, gave her a great opportunity to be able to finally do so, to talk about that part of the plan. Still nothing. But she thought that it would be the right answer to go after me and say that she doesn't understand why this is so important to me. And when she says that to me, she's saying that to all of you. The governor of the state of New York does not understand why this is so important to you. It's bad enough if she's thinking that to herself, but she is actually saying this out loud. Singletary, who's the next congressman from this congressional district, is the former police chief here in Rochester. This is as personal as it gets for LaRon, for the men and women he's served with in law enforcement, who want to make sure that the handcuffs are going on the criminals instead of the handcuffs going on the criminal justice system. Allison Esposito is our next lieutenant governor. Allison retired 25 years in the NYPD. Her father was the NYPD chief. Allison was the deputy inspector and commanding officer of the 70th precinct in Brooklyn. Allison would have become a chief herself, but she retired to be our state's next lieutenant governor. Why is this so important to you, LaRon? Why is this so important to you, Allison? We just left Syracuse. We were with the family of 93-year-old Connie Torrey, who was murdered last year by someone who had just been released days prior due to cashless bail. Now, this wasn't somebody who just got arrested once. The person who murdered Connie Torrey was arrested month after month after month after month after month throughout 2020. A serial criminal. Just harmed somebody days earlier. Why is this so important to you, Kathy Hochul would ask to the family of Connie Torrey. Seriously? As I travel around this entire state, and I ask New Yorkers, what are the issues that are most important to you? They talk to me about the issues that make for their breaking point as New Yorkers. Every single day, people tell me, Lee, if you don't win, I'm leaving. Now, my first thought is, it's if we don't win. But the reality is that this is a campaign, truly, to save our state. And I don't think that Kathy Hochul's Rose Garden strategy is working out so well for her. You need to be with the people. Talk to them about the issues that matter most to them. Members of the media ask me all the time about what the most important issues are. And I always answer based off of what the people of New York tell me are the issues most important to them. Not based off the issues that I want to be the most important issues. That's what Kathy Hochul does. We have a governor of the state of New York right now who couldn't even finish this sentence, and I've been asking for months. The media has tried to ask her this question, and she flubbed it remarkably in Binghamton Airport. I gave her another opportunity, a do-over, a mulligan, whatever she wanted to call it, at the debate the other night. Finish this sentence. New York leads the entire nation in population loss because. We all know. Everybody here knows. Scream it from the rooftops. If your window's open, if you're on the streets, everyone knows why New York leads the entire nation in population loss. Kathy Hochul can't finish this sentence. How can you expect her to actually fix it? Why is this so important to me? I'm going to first call up Allison Esposito. I just told you a little bit about Allison. Allison was well on her way to being NYPD chief. For the people of Rochester, just this week, an armed carjacking perpetrated by a parolee. A 21-year-old man shot in Greece, and an innocent bystander's home was hit. A 23-year-old man was shot multiple times. Even Bob Duffy is saying that there should be a special session. Bob Duffy was the lieutenant governor who serves here. He's a member of the community, a leader here in the Rochester community, says there should be a special session to deal with this. And he's right. Bob Duffy is right. The mayor of the city of New York, he's also a Democrat. He says that there should be a special session in Albany to give judges discretion to weigh dangerousness and to amend raise the age. I'm a Republican. Bob Duffy's a Democrat. Eric Adams is a Democrat. I'm telling you, they're right. And it should happen right now. Regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, the reason why we are going to win this race in 12 days is that we aren't divided based on party lines. We are united as New Yorkers to actually fix it. Why, Kathy Hochul? Because it is so important to us. And we know exactly why it is. We are focused on it, and we are going to take back our streets. We're going to make sure that our men and women in law enforcement are protected again. And there is no bigger champion ever that we have seen rise up through the ranks of law enforcement to this moment that we have today, where one of their own is about to become our state's next lieutenant governor. I'm going to call up Allison Esposito.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. As the Congressman just said, it's not about party lines. This isn't a red wave. This is a common sense wave. You have Bob Duffy, Eric Adams, Democrats calling out what's going on in Albany right now as a failure to their New Yorkers. What we allow will continue. What we allow will continue. Why do we care so much? Why does it matter so much? Look at the debate the other night. The Congressman was laser focused, scope locked on the issues that matter most to the people of the state of New York. It's crime and public safety. It's the economy, and it's our children's education. Up and down the state, that is what we are being told, day in and day out. And you had an out-of-touch, smug, arrogant elitist in our present governor that stood there almost with no affect, not understanding why New Yorkers could be afraid, telling them, don't believe your own eyes or what you feel on the streets. Fear, I get it. Fear is tough, but it's not really reality. It's just your perception. Nothing is going on out of the ordinary. Criminals are being held accountable for their actions. It was pathetic. And New Yorkers are not fools. They saw absolutely right through that. While the Congressman was scope locked on public safety and law and order, you had a governor that couldn't be bothered, that was more concentrated on a former president and anything else she could throw into the mix to distract voters from what really matters. We're standing in Rochester right now at 68 murders for the year. 68! That's 68 lives taken away. 68 families torn apart. It's pathetic and unacceptable in this state. They are not data points. They are not statistics. They are victims, victims with families, families who are part of communities. And this ripple effect is tearing through our state. And there's horrific incident after incident. 6 months ago, we had an individual in Rochester at home with her 5 kids. Whitney Johnson at 1 a.m. did a live Facebook plea to the gang members and to the police and to anyone who would listen. At 1 a.m. when she heard gunshots ringing out and she's pulling her small children from their beds and covering them with her bodies. She walked outside and 27 bullet holes were in her home. 27. She was beside herself on the Facebook Live, begging for help, begging to stop this gang warfare, begging for the violence to stop. Just a few months back, we had our officers ambushed, 1 killed. It was horrible. Not only does that kill the law enforcement, that kills a community, that kills families, that kills all law enforcement supporters. That is the sign of a problem with public safety. And we had a governor that showed up to that funeral that could care less about the widow or the officers that were grieving. She cared only where she was to be seated that day. What we allow will continue, ladies and gentlemen, and I, for one, am sick of allowing it. I was a cop for almost 25 years, and I left my police department for the same reason I joined it, because those who cannot protect themselves deserve to be protected. And I am honored to stand by Congressman Zeldin's side, future Governor Zeldin's side, in taking back this state for the good, decent, hard-working people of this state. We will deliver back to you the New York State you deserve. We need you to come out. Let your voices be heard. On November 8th, not a red wave. Democrats, independents, Republicans, and people who have never voted before, stand up and say enough. We expect integrity from our leadership. We expect honor from our leadership. Your job in leadership is to protect us. On November 8th, let your voices be heard. We forgot in this country to an extent that voting is not just a right, but a duty and an obligation. Come out on November 8th and send a clear wave that we are taking our state back and we are fighting for victims' rights, and criminals will once again be held accountable for their actions. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Great job.
I mentioned him. I've seen him work hard. He has a tremendous amount of support here on all sides of the aisle. He is a leader. He's going to be an outstanding member of Congress. The people of the 25th Congressional District of New York are going to be exceptionally well served when he gets sworn into office in January. Singletary.
Yeah.
I want to thank the Congressman for being here in Rochester to talk about a pressing issue. An issue that I made decisions on not far from here, sitting in that chair, in that building, about public safety. A situation where judges cannot determine dangerous who sit in that building, right there, in our Hall of Justice. Today I stand before you as a Rochester police officer, retired. As a Rochester police chief, retired. As a son of Rochester. As a black man. I have a message to Governor Hochul. Your public safety policies are killing people who look like me. Let me paint this picture and provide a visual for the current governor. Here are some numbers. In 2021, we saw 81 homicides, 419 people shot. This year, 68 homicides, 300 plus people shot. Kathy Hochul and Joe Morelli are out of touch. They have no idea what's going on in this city right here. In 2022, 38 individuals were arrested for murder. 10 were parolees or probationers. 2021, 67 individuals were arrested for murder. 7 were parolees or probationers. 2020, 33 arrested for murder. 6 were parolees and probationers. 2019, 30 individuals arrested for murder. 7 were parolees or probationers. 2018, a year where we did not have criminal justice reform in this state. I'll repeat that, a year that we did not have the criminal justice reform in this state. 23 individuals were arrested for murder, only one was on probation or parole. We must appreciate the job that our probationers, that our probation officers, our parole officers, and our police officers do in this community. It's Kathy Hochul's message. She's sending a message that if you commit a murder, that is the only time that you will be held. That is the only time that you will face consequences, i.e. less is more. We have an illegal gun crisis here. We must enforce the laws that are currently on the books. Allow these men and women to use the tools that they have in their toolbox. This is about accountability of individuals who are breaking the law, not about law-abiding citizens buying legal guns. This is about individuals who are breaking the law, not about law-abiding citizens buying legal guns. Here's my last point. There has not been a murder that I can remember where a legal firearm was used. These murders are being committed by individuals who are using illegal firearms. Illegal. This is not about partisan politics. This is not about partisan politics. This is about saving lives and doing what is right by the people. By people. You know, I said it when I was police chief, when I sat in that chair. I said it when I announced on November 4th, when I was running for Congress. And I'll say it today. We need to let our law enforcement officers, probation, parole, police officers do their job. We cannot defund the police. We need to refund the police. These are the individuals who are working tirelessly, day and night, to keep us safe, to prevent homicides from happening. In just 12 days, we have an important election. You know, I've been saying that the Democratic Party left me. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. In 12 days, I'm asking people to vote for the person, not a party, a person. People behind me, people who care about the issues, people who care about public safety. People wanted change, but they didn't want this type of change. I'm asking people to vote in just 12 days for the people who care about the lives that have been lost in this community, not about a party. Thank you.
You'll realize why that voice is so desperately needed right now in the House of Representatives, and a voice that is so desperately needed in the United States Senate is our next Senator, Joe Pinion.
Yeah.
Well, I am humbled to stand here before you, Joe Pinion, Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, but my party affiliation didn't bring me to Rochester. The desperation of the unheard cries of too many New Yorkers brought us to Rochester. It seems like every day I get on the phone with my brother Laron, and he tells me about another child that has been shot, about another member of our community who has been killed, because of the three most dangerous words ever uttered in the history of modern politics: defund the police. Now, it has been suggested to me by people on editorial boards that crime is a local matter, reserved for mayors and sheriffs. What does that have to do with the United States Senate? Or in the case of Laron Singletary, what does that have to do with Congress? And I tell them, everything. Lee asks the question all the time, why does New York lead the nation in outward migration? There are many acceptable answers, but I can tell you what the cause is. It's Chuck Schumer. It's career politicians like Joe Morelli. Chuck Schumer and Joe Morelli have been in government longer than I have been alive, longer than Laron Singletary has been drawing breath on this earth. And what are the results? That Rochester, New York, on their watch, now leads the nation for major cities in homicide rates higher than Chicago, Illinois by some standards. That is the untold story of pain and suffering all across this great state. Syracuse, New York now has a higher poverty rate than any other major city for crime for children in the nation. That is the untold story of pain and suffering all across this state. Where is Chuck Schumer on this issue? Where is Joe Morelli on this issue? They could care less. There's often this notion that Joe Morelli, that Chuck Schumer, that they really care, that they're hard at work. He's running ads, spending millions of dollars saying the job's not done. If you can't get the job done in 42 years, step aside and let somebody else get the job done.
Absolutely. That's right.
We are here to talk about children who are kept in a cocoon of fear because their living rooms have been turned into a shooting gallery. We are here to talk about the fact that the fastest growing segment of legal gun owners in the country today are black women, because it's their communities that have been left in horror. These are the facts. These are the stakes. That crime is more than just statistics. That criminality in many ways is a virus. And that virus was allowed to be unleashed on the citizenry, dropped in the drinking water. Now it has metastasized to everywhere you look because Chuck Schumer stood before television cameras and said that crime wasn't a big issue. Because Joe Morelli knelt and said that we had to defund the police, and now they want to rewrite history. My grandfather told me a long time ago, never trust the man who promises to do tomorrow what he had the power to do yesterday. We have had 42 years of yesterdays, and the results, they speak for themselves. We cannot trust Joe Morelli to deliver results because Joe Morelli has no interest in results. He has an interest in holding on to power. We cannot trust Chuck Schumer to deliver what black communities, what communities like Rochester deserve, because he's only interested in the politics. Every time Chuck Schumer cuts a deal, New York gets the short end of the stick, and the desperation in places like Rochester and Syracuse, they run a little deeper. The drugs that are flooding into our communities, they're a direct result of the open border policies, rubber stamped by Joe Morelli, rubber stamped by Chuck Schumer. Because they said that it was the new Ellis Island. No, it is an island of doom and despair that has brought death to the doorsteps of urban, suburban, and rural mothers alike. It cares not if you are black, it cares not if you are white, it only cares how much carnage it can create.
That's right, man. Absolutely.
And so I will echo the sentiments of Laron Singletary. I will echo the sentiments of Lee Zeldin, that we come here humbly, placing our hearts in your hand. We ask you to place your trust in ours, not in the name of a party, but in the name of a New York State that can and should receive better, in the name of an Empire State that can and will rise again, with stewardship that puts people first, not politics. We're here to restore the humanity of this great state. We're here to rebuild the bonds of our society that have been torn to tatters by divisive politics cultivated by career politicians. Let's go save this state together. Let's tell the people of Rochester that you will have a team at the state level and at the federal level that carries your pain and your suffering in our hearts. Thank you to the media for being here. Let's go get the job done.
So I thank everybody who's here joining us. Jim Van Brederode is running for state senate, running a great campaign. Marcus Williams is here running for New York State Assembly. Dave Dunning, the chair of the Monroe County Republican Committee. We have Don Mazzullo, who's the chair of the Monroe County Conservative Committee. Of course, Trish Turner, who is the vice chair of the New York State Republican Committee, the Ontario County Republican Committee chair. We thank the local residents for being here. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. We're here really on behalf of so many other residents of this community who are just crying out for Albany to do whatever it can to address this rising crime which is plaguing the streets of Rochester. That leadership right now is absent.
Congressman Berkeley Green from Houston, NBC. The City Court of Rochester is right over there behind those windows. And I try to go as often as I can to see what bail is set, who gets bail, who doesn't, what happens after that. And in my experience, every single person who shows up under the gun charge gets bail, and many others do too, the vast majority. So they are actually going to jail. And if they got the money to post bail, they post bail and get out. But I'm wondering if you can clarify where you stand. Are you saying that if you are charged with a gun crime, your bail should be higher, or there should be no bail at all, and you go to jail until you have a trial?
No, I'm not suggesting mandatory pretrial confinement in absolutely every case of all sorts of different crimes. The reality is that the law is set right now. You have to set the least restrictive means to secure their return to court. You can't weigh dangerousness. And Kathy Hochul is exploiting what she hopes to be a fundamental misunderstanding of the people, but the people are smarter than she's giving them credit for. She says that judges never had discretion to weigh dangerousness. We didn't have cashless bail. The whole point is that people are getting released on cashless bail, and the judge can't weigh dangerousness. It's the case of Connie Torrey. That person, the woman in that particular case, should not have been released on cashless bail. Connie Torrey should be alive today. As far as the overhaul goes, I believe that there should be far more offenses that are bail eligible than what we see today, that judges should have discretion to weigh dangerousness. We had a story just outside of Buffalo, came down a few weeks ago. On a Tuesday, Adam Benefield was released. He had been charged with a slew of domestic violence offenses. Kiera Hudson, mother of 3 kids, was begging, "You can't release my husband. He is going to kill me." Adam got released on Tuesday, the next day in front of Kiera's 3 kids, and while Kiera was wearing a bulletproof vest, she was murdered by Adam Benefield. There's a reason why Bob Duffy, Democrat, former lieutenant governor, Eric Adams, Democrat, sitting New York City mayor, and others are calling for judges to have discretion to weigh dangerousness. I believe that this is a standard that must be set today. And I'll say just one other thing about cashless bail. If you were to have somebody commit a low-level offense, clean record, not a danger, not a flight risk, the only reason why they would be stuck behind bars is because they cannot afford $100, we are all in agreement that that person should not be stuck solely because they can't afford $100. But I would also offer that when you're a Mexican cartel drug smuggler busted with $1.2 million worth of crystal meth, you should not be released on cashless bail, which, by the way, is something that happened over the summer with 2 Mexican cartel drug smugglers who were caught with $1.2 million worth of crystal meth. But no, if you're asking of whether or not I'm proposing mandatory pretrial confinement for every case involving a firearm, no, I've never said that.
What do you mean by cashless bail?
Are you, when someone gets released and they don't have to put up cash bail?
So just they're arraigned, plead not guilty, and they get released.
Yeah, so that happened. You know, listen, it was a tough case here with David Jacobonis. You know, we were doing a rally on July 21st, a veteran, somebody who I'm told was intoxicated, somebody who I've been told had mental health challenges, came up on stage and was detained and arrested. Now, under New York's law, the facts of every case are important, right? Under New York's law, he was released within hours on cashless bail. Now, you could change around the facts of this case so many different ways where he would still get released on cashless bail. What I believe is that in all of these cases that the judge should have discretion to weigh dangerousness. Now, maybe the judge decides that there isn't a danger, but at least they're able to weigh it as a factor. And by the way, you might even be able to say in the David Jacobonis case that weighing dangerousness, the biggest threat might have even been to himself. They released him that night. The guy was apparently intoxicated, and he was back out. I got an email around 2:30 or so in the morning saying that he was already released. Is that in the best interest of the veteran? And the federal government had to step in and actually do something about it. So I just believe that it's really important to give judges far more discretion than what they have right now to decide what is best. And right now, that's lacking in this system that we have in the state.
Mr. Zeldin, could I maybe get a comment on the Mills Stadium renderings that came out this morning? What's your thoughts on that? And do you still believe you could, propose a better deal for the funding rather than coming from tax, majority of it coming from tax?
Well, I absolutely should have cut a better deal for a stadium. Listen, I hear from people who live right there. I mean, walking distance away. People who live in the neighboring communities. People who live in Erie County. We hear it across Western New York, where they believe that there should have been a better deal. This isn't something where, you know, you have to live in the Hudson Valley or the North Country or, you know, New York City or Long Island to have that opinion. We hear it from people in Western New York. Now, process-wise, Kathy Hochul didn't give a heads up to the state legislature. Hey, by the way, I'm about to drop this surprise on your lap in the 11th hour as we're finalizing the budget. It's a possibility that if we don't get prepared, that the budget might even be late. No, what she did was just chose strategically to blindside the state legislature. As far as her transparency in this process, that's been an issue. As far as the renderings that were released this morning, I have to take a look at the renderings, to be honest. I've just been going from one event to the next. I have to look through emails and take a look at that one. But as far as the cost goes, this is unprecedented. Nowhere across the state have we seen anything like this. You have a billionaire owner of the team. Forbes' list just came out. His wealth just went up by another $1 billion. The Buffalo Bills are staying in New York. There's no reason for any of us to believe at all that the state has to get totally rolled and screwed over 6 ways to Sunday in order to keep the Bills here in New York. Kathy Hochul voluntarily, enthusiastically made sure that all of us, everybody, got rolled because she's not a good negotiator. She's not a good steward of tax dollars. She's not transparent. And quite frankly, there's all sorts of other issues while she's having, you know, her husband's the general counsel of the company that runs the concessions. There's just a lot of issues that New Yorkers express to me that they have with it, even if they are around the block from Bill's Stadium.
Congressman, I think the crime issue is really important. I want to hone in on the dangerousness standard. The way, how do you see it? If a judge has that discretion, does a judge keep somebody incarcerated for a period of time until they find that they're not dangerous? Or what? How would that work, do you think?
It depends on the facts of the case. You can weigh multiple factors. So I've been advocating for the view of flight risk, seriousness of the offense, past criminal record, all to be considered by the judge. Dangerousness is the standard that is being advocated for the most. But quite frankly, if you're looking for a solution that was the best, you would ensure that the judge is looking at all these factors to decide what is the right decision in that particular case. In one case, you might be choosing to hold somebody for a few days. It's a domestic violence case. You have kids involved. You have some unique situation where you have to get things in place, orders of protection, making sure that there's an understanding. Maybe you need to ensure that they're entering into some kind of a program. Maybe it's a drug program. Maybe they're an alcoholic. You know, the criminal justice system can't be looked at as just being about putting someone in handcuffs. Now, Kathy Hochul doesn't even want to talk about the handcuffs. And you said this is important. You just referenced crime as an issue that's important. I agree with you. Kathy Hochul wants to know why this is so important to us. And that's what brought us here today, because it is very important to New Yorkers across the state, especially residents here in Rochester. Thank you, everybody.
You got my vote. You got mine.